Okay, perfect. I'm just going to share my slides. Um, so I'm just going to spend like next 10 minutes just to talk about how we use data as an operating tool. So, this question has come up like multiple times, like what role data has played in these turbulent times. And I always say like it has been in the front and center of the whole thing. But I'm glad that we had built the role of the data in such a way that we were ready for this as it was hitting. And this is my 3-year-old asking me a question. You know how they have the right timing for everything? Yes, you can go. Sorry about that. This is the new life we all have. So before jumping into how we leverage data as an operating tool, let me just get a little bit into, just share a little bit about what Poshmark is. So I work at Poshmark. I'm chief data officer there. It's a social marketplace which has very hyper engaged community. And Poshmark is the only like this largest social commerce marketplace out there where we are bringing the in-person shopping experience together with the e-commerce to create this new category we call social commerce. If you think of the in-person shopping, what people do when you go to shopping, you go with your friends, your significant others, your other family members, but you are discovering things like the window shopping, as we call it. You are browsing new stuff. You walk into a store, you get the recommendation, and it's a social experience. Like people enjoy doing that, like going with friends and the family to do shopping. On the other side is the e-commerce, which has the big convenience aspect of it, and it has the vast catalog. The thing you can't stuff that many things in a store. What Poshmark does is it brings the both sides together. It of course has all the conveniences of and the vast catalog from the e-commerce, but it's a very social platform where buyer and sellers are interacting with each other, and sellers are interacting with each other. People are having conversations on fashion. So we have 60 million registered users, which is basically 1 in 5 people in America is on Poshmark, and people spend 27 minutes in the app every day. It's Poshmark makes selling a superpower. A sale is made every second, and sellers are located in the 90% of the US zip codes. So just wanted to give this backdrop of the Poshmark and the scale at which we are operating. Now let me just switch gear and talk a little bit about the decision making during these uncertain times in the post-pandemic world. And before we look into what and how we use the data at Poshmark, let's understand at the highest level, what does that environment look like? Like you're all very familiar with it, but at the highest level, when we are in these turbulent times, there's a lot of uncertainty due to the factors which are very macro, and we don't have the control on those things, which means we can't model them through the data. It's a very emotionally charged environment, and what that leads to is a lot of circular decisions, and there's a lot of indecisiveness when you are not certain about a lot of things. We generally observe lower risk appetite, which leads to hesitation in the decision making. But as a result, as you are hesitating in this making decisions, there is a high cost of the delayed decisions. So what does data do in this world? And this is how we use the data at Poshmark. So it starts with the evaluation, right? So you understand what is the current environment, and you understand at the right granularity. You try to understand the daily, weekly, monthly trends, etc., to make sure that you fully understand the situation and how things are changing over time. Then based on that, then you plan it out. You use the data to plan out the various scenarios and figure out like what are the outcomes under different scenarios. Then of course you moved into execution, and as you move into execution, you measure the impact of each of these the different scenarios you are trying to work on and different decisions you are making, and you measure all sorts of impact of all actions, whether they are small or big, and across all business functions, from the marketing and growth to the product decisions to the operations decisions, as well as the community service. And then as you get the data back, you learn, you look at the data and try to understand, like, okay, we took these actions or then these assumptions, what was the outcome, and try to get a very clear unbiased picture of what worked and what didn't work. And that also, what didn't work helps you understand, okay, what are the changes which we need to make, and then you repeat the whole cycle. And this is pretty much how you turn the data into an operating tool. It's basically using the data at the each and every step of this evaluate, plan, execute, measure, and learn stage. And at Poshmark, the data is driving all the decisions across the marketing, product, operations, and all the strategic decisions for the next growth levers, etc. And it's very embedded in every decision we make at Poshmark. Now let's take a quick look at how do we turn data into the operating tool, and what has led to this success at Poshmark, where data is being used in such an integrated way in all decision. It starts with very critically a very close partnership with business functions. The entire data team needs to have a very business value mindset. And we really need to deeply understand what are the business opportunities and challenges so we can have a good discussion with our business users, not around what data you need and what analytic project you need, but it's around what business problem and what challenge which we are trying to work on. Along with that business mindset, you need to have the right org structures and the organizational values to actually enable that. The way, so I have a centralized data team, which is divided into multiple verticals, from the product analytics, marketing analytics, and operations analytics, seller analytics. And what we do is these vertical teams have their incentives are very aligned with the business teams they work with. So they're both, the business team and the data team is driving towards the same goal. But to really make that happen, we also need the core values, which not to support, but basically evangelizes the collaboration and the mutual success mindset. The third one is the data democratization. So, they're saying we will never have enough analysts and data scientists. But in that situation, how do you still get the entire organization to be making decisions based on the data? That's where the data democratization plays a central role. There are basically, what we have done at Poshmark is that we have the foundation of very centralized, reliable, and easiest to access and comprehend data. But then it's being delivered to all the business teams through various internal and the external tools which we have built based on the BI tools are in the market. But it allows for the data to be accessible by all the business users at the time of the decision without waiting on the data team to be helping them with every decision. What it does in turn is, as you can imagine, it enables a much larger team to make data-driven decisions. And last but not the least, we need to have a very flexible and seamlessly scalable data applications. We need to be able to, all the data application need to allow for the flexibility to be able to look at the data at all time granularity, as well as any other dimensions you need to cut. And we need to look into building the data applications which are modular, which can be repeated and across multiple business use cases. Essentially, like the way I work with my team is that we look at each of the engagements we do as we are building the data products, as opposed to we are doing the one-off analytics projects. Again, that allows us for just to continue to scale the usage of the data so that we are able to serve growing needs of all the business functions. And lastly, just around like how do we go about building these data applications to drive these decisions? As you can see, they are on the foundation of three key pillars. It's a data applications. Of course, you need to have a rich data asset, and we have built that data asset on by focusing on all four dimensions of the big data. It's the volume. The data is high variety. As you can see, that we have the data from the user interactions, buyer-seller interaction, user attributes, data coming from the acquisition, the merge attributes, the social interactions. Data has, it's a big volume of data, but it's accessible in the real time for the applications which need the real time, and it's accessible through the nightly ETL. So there's a lot of flexibility being built in to make sure that the right data is available at the right time to make sure we are able to build different types of data applications. And then we use a diverse data tech stack to enable using this data to build a diverse data applications. On the data storage, we are using Redshift, Spectrum, S3, and Druid. On the data access, depending on the use case, it can be the notebooks and the different types of database-based tools and different other various platforms for accessing big data. For the BI tools, there are out of the market, out of the shelf tools like Grafana and Looker, but believe me, none of these tools were actually fulfilling the need of all the needs of Poshmark, which is very data driven. So we ended up actually building an internal BI tool, which works for us and is critical in using the data in real time for all the decisions. And similarly for the data science and the ML platform, one size doesn't fit all. We are using a Spark ML, NLTK, Python, R. Again, depending on what you're trying to do, we are using a variety of technology stack. And lastly, on when it comes to building the data applications, Yogesh touched a little bit of this, right? That when you are trying to build these data solutions, it's not about what type of projects I want to do. It's about what business problem we are trying to solve. So a lot of them get solved actually through this self-serve analytics, which is basically a lot of dashboards and the reporting through the BI tools. For lots of other problems, we do these statistical analysis based data products, which are driving decisions. And when there's the right time, we use machine learning. So machine learning is not the answer for all the different decisions we are trying to make on the day-to-day basis across all these business functions. So depending on the use case, we use different solutions. And by building just these applications, we are able to just drive these efficient decisions, which has always been I would say, big differentiation at Poshmark, like the way that data gets used. But definitely in the post-pandemic world, it has benefited us, like how ready we were in being able to use the data in all the decisions. With that, let me hand it over back to Raghu.